Okay, welcome to the internNE powered by Nebraska, I was going to say. Welcome to the internNE powered by Aksarben podcast. I'm Shauna Dorsey, and today I'm here with a special guest, and tell us who you are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elliott Cain, and I'm the program coordinator for Registered Apprenticeships with the Nebraska Department of Labor.
That's awesome. So Elliott and I met a couple months back. It was August. I can't believe that's now almost 2 months ago.
Kidding.
But at the Governor's Summit, and we were on a panel with a couple of other amazing leaders, one from Jobs for America's Graduates with United Way, and Bo Jones with Career Pathway. And all of us were just talking about different ways for youth and people who want to gain some experience to connect to these various opportunities. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do at Department of Labor and about what apprenticeships are and all that good stuff?
Of course. So Registered Apprenticeships are a U.S. Department of Labor program, and I am at state level Department of Labor, and I don't expect everyone to always know the differences between the two, but my role at the state level Department of Labor is to help work with employers. I'm kind of effectively the boots on the ground for our U.S. Department of Labor state director. His name is Jim Whiteman. He covers Nebraska. So I'm he kind of refers to me as his sales team. So I meet with employers, schools, organizations, really anybody that's interested in hearing more about apprenticeship. I meet with them, answer questions, and my role is really consultative. I provide information so that they can make an informed choice on whether or not they want to pursue developing a registered apprenticeship program. And when they are ready to take that step, I help get them started on a little amount of paperwork to get started. But to develop a program, the first thing is there has to be some kind of employer need for it. That's one thing I go back to a lot with any conversation about apprenticeship is it has to be employer driven. There has to be some kind of workforce demand that this program is addressing. And so there's about 2,000 apprenticeable occupations. So chances are, if you're an employer, if you're hiring for something, chances are it can be apprenticeable. There needs to be, in addition to the occupation, there needs to be a certain number of what we call contact hours for related instruction. So apprenticeship is a two-pronged approach where apprentices receive on-the-job training, and they also receive supplemental classroom instruction. I say classroom; it's really any kind of formalized instruction counts towards those hours. But it is the main thing to take away with apprenticeship is that from the very beginning is that it's employment. This is full-time gainful employment, and that's kind of what, in my opinion, kind of separates apprenticeship from several other initiatives. Is that this is full-on employment from the beginning, and it is I refer to it as it's one tool in the toolbox. For all kinds of workforce solutions out there. There's room for everything, and this is just one thing that in Nebraska we've been a little bit behind our Midwestern peers and just having programs exist and be out there, and so there's not a lot of working knowledge out there in the consciousness of the public. So that's one thing that we're trying to address is promote it as a solution, as a viable solution for employers.
That's really great. So, and you might be asking yourself, why are we talking about apprenticeships on the internNE podcast? And one of the reasons is, as Elliott and I and others have had discussions about apprenticeships, we're like, internships are a great entry point into an apprenticeship. So can you talk about, for those who might be asking, well, what's the difference? It sounds like with an internship, you'd still need to be like in school training, that sort of thing. So tell us the difference.
I would say, one of the main differences between internship and apprenticeship, one is a registered apprenticeship it is a program that's registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. Obviously, internships, there's a lot of flexibility there where they don't necessarily have that structure there. I was an intern when I was in graduate school. I was an intern, a counseling intern. So I was not necessarily employed at the very beginning of it. So internship is a little bit more. Our commissioner of Department of Labor, John Albin, he refers to internships as dating, whereas apprenticeship is more marriage. So both have value, both have utility. It's just that there are, and there's oftentimes, some crossover between the two, but I would say the main difference would be the employment piece and then the formalized registration piece with USDOL.
Excellent. And one other thing to note, this is just outstanding information to note, and we'll get into a bit more of like what are some examples of apprenticeable occupations and maybe some of your success stories that you can share. But one thing to note is that Department of Economic Development will support apprenticeships as part of the reimbursement process for the Intern Nebraska grant. So that's pretty huge, just noting that, like you said, there is so much overlap, serving a similar purpose, but different in that the apprenticeship, as you mentioned, is intended for full-time employment and is that day one. So tell us about like, what are some of your favorite stories and maybe what it looks like to become a registered apprenticeship program? Sure.
So I'll kind of walk through the development process. So usually, and this is, there's definitely no one way to go about it, but the most typical process is to meet with usually me. Mm-hmm. I'm usually the first point of contact folks have with apprenticeship. So I meet with folks. I have a very short little PowerPoint that I go over on just a registered apprenticeship basics, program structure, and just it's just kind of that, I try not to overwhelm folks with information in that first round, but I do try to provide enough information to see whether or not it's something they want to move forward with. If they do want to move forward, the first thing we do is identify what occupation this program is going to be for. That's the cornerstone that everything is built off of. And I usually encourage employers to kind of think about either, what's the problem child occupation that you just cannot find any person for, or what's the occupation where maybe you can hire for, but you're not, for whatever reason, folks aren't sticking in it. Or a third one, what occupation where maybe you're already staffed just fine at, but you won't be in the next 5, 10, 15 years with institutional knowledge, retiring. Mm-hmm. So that once we determine that, we fill out what's called a qualified lead form, which is just me gathering basic information about the employer, name, address, point of contact, email, that kind of stuff. We include the what occupation the program is going to be for in that, and those are determined by documents called work process schedules, which is essentially a rubric of what is the apprentice going to learn Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Those are measured in increments of 2,000 hours, with 2,000 hours being considered one full-time working year. For every 2,000 hours on the job, the apprentice needs 144 hours in the classroom. So depending on what the occupation is, the length of it, and then that determines where we go for the related technical instruction. Maybe there's a community college nearby. Maybe there's an instance where we can partner with a high school. Maybe they have an internal curriculum that they utilize. But regardless, we get all of that information from the qualified lead form about the employer. We get the occupation and the work process schedule selected, and then we figure out the related technical instruction. And all of that gets compiled into a document called Standards of Apprenticeship, which is the program. That's the program on paper. And Jim, our state director, he sends out a draft of that to the employer or school or organization, and for them to review. And once it looks good to them, they sign it, and that program is then registered. So that's a really mm-hmm. really rough outline of what that process looks like. It can take. The fastest I've seen a program created from very first meeting to fully registered was, I think, like 30 hours. Like, it was really quick because we had everything ready to go. I've also seen it take 2 years.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, we go at the pace of business. So the sooner that we can get information and stuff from them, the sooner it gets registered.
That's awesome. So. And the thing I do love about this is that you said it's business led, which is really mm-hmm. key. Can you talk to us about what are some of the benefits a business can receive from this? So one thing I'm thinking is, of course, workforce, addressing workforce shortages, sure. But when they might say to themselves, well, like, but it's going to take a lot of time from my team, all of the sure, things that you sure. probably hear.
Of course. So, mm-hmm. so there's benefits to it, and it kind of depends on, it depends on the business, and it depends kind of on their location, because one thing I hear a lot from employers is nobody's applying. And in a state like Nebraska, where our unemployment rate at any given time is 2.1%, or something crazy low like that, that means as an employer that there's not a lot of qualified people out walking around. So you either have to poach from your competition or you have to train. And apprenticeship is all about training. And apprenticeship is about taking anybody from no proficiency to full proficiency. You're not hiring this perfectly qualified candidate that's going to come in and know everything and hit the ground running. You're hiring someone based on their potential. So you're going to use this program to cultivate them into being that perfect employee. So you're not dependent on finding these unicorn candidates that are out walking around that have all the perfect qualifications and are able to hit the ground running. You're able to theoretically take anyone off the street and get them competent in this. So that's one thing is formalizing that. Another way for employers that employers benefit from apprenticeship is by utilizing a group program. Like, for example, we have 3 community colleges that are signed on as registered apprenticeship group programs: Southeast, Northeast, and Central. And a group program is where an organization there are a registered apprenticeship sponsor. They have the occupation, they have the related instruction, they have everything ready to go. So as an employer, they're able to sign on and utilize that program without having to administer a full program on their own. So from the employer perspective, the more of those that we have out there, the more options they have to utilize a program. It also creates a pipeline, because that's another like I said a moment ago, is that a lot of employers tell me no one's applying. If you're able to sign on and utilize a program with a community college or a school or something like that, you have a pipeline of folks that you can always pull from. Yep. Apprenticeship is also GI Bill approved. So if you want to target a specific populace like the veteran populace, you can, have your program registered and advertise to vets and say, hey, come use your GI Bill to go through our program. So those are kind of the inherent kind of structural things that do provide some benefits to employers to having it fully registered.
That's super exciting. And I know we have the Youth Apprenticeship Summit coming up.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, in November. I believe it's November 19th. It's the Elevate Summit. It's put on by Central, Southeast, and Northeast Community College. If you Google it, Elevate Summit, Kearney, Nebraska, at the UNIS Conference Center. I'll be there. I'll be moderating one of the breakout sessions. But yeah, they had their first one last year, and it was a great success, and so they're obviously doing it again. It's also during National Apprenticeship Week. So if you Google National Apprenticeship Week, there's a USDOL site that has all kinds of events and proclamations and things from registered apprenticeship programs throughout the country.
That's awesome. And we're really excited to sponsor it. I'll be there too, just hanging out and learning and hopefully connecting more people just to the various resources that are available to them to use for apprenticeships as well.
And that's a great thing about the conference that they do there, is that there is a apprenticeship focus, but there's all kinds of other things that they cover too, because again, this is just one solution out there, and they try to get, as much word out as possible to employers, schools, whoever.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here and for sharing a bit of information, and we'll be sure to include a link to the apprenticeship page on DOL's website as well. So
perfect.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.